Insightful, engaging, dynamic, authentic, empowering, informative, transformative, controversial, unbiased, impactful. This is Politics Aside with Release Brooks. Welcome back to our International Women's Month series. Our guest for today is Hanna Fitz.
Hello.
Hello, Hanna. Thank you so much for joining us for this International Women's series. It's a great pleasure and honor. Just by interacting with you at the time I did, I was very encouraged and inspired and thought to share that with the rest of the world. So I reached out to you, and thankfully, and graciously you accept. So Hanna, tell us about yourself. Where are you from and where are you located now?
So I'm actually from the island of St. Lucia. And I know you asked that question because I spent a lot of time in Germany, but I actually just arrived in St. Lucia recently. So I'm here for an event that we're going to be doing in the Easter holiday, in the Easter period. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. You're there already.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow, that's really good. Tell us about Cultured Life. I mean, it's an interesting name. How did you
Sure.
come up with it and why? What does it really mean?
Yeah, so when my first company was actually founded in St. Lucia, and it was called Seashell Consulting. After many years, when I started to transition to the online world, I had taken a 2-month trip to the South Pacific, all the way to Fiji Islands. And while I was visiting those islands, these Polynesian islands, I realized I started to go to a lot of pearl farms. And in looking at the process of culturing pearls, it really brought to mind this idea that there's a 1 in 10,000 chance of getting a natural pearl in the ocean that is acceptable for having a kind of high value effect that we look for when we think of a perfect or beautiful pearl. So it's 1 in 10,000. And so to create or to increase the odds of having a successful pearl, you have to culture it. You have to create the conditions. You have to put the nucleus into the oyster and simulate what nature might have done, but is highly improbable. And I looked at that process and thought, well, this is the same for our potential and our purpose and how we fulfill our destiny. That while we have all the things that we are like the oyster, we can create anything. But the potential is not enough. The conditions must be put in place to increase the odds of fulfilling that in a very powerful way. And so this really inspired the Cultured Life, the name of the company, to really look at that process of being a deliberate creator of your life. And we also just recently did the actual symbol for Cultured Life because I had been waiting for quite a while, understanding the power of symbols and what that would look like for the brand. And that is also very symbolic of the process that I talked about, but also the process of individuation, where we can wield the two different sides of ourselves to create a whole and lustrous way that we show up that is authentic to who we really are.
I mean, that's incredible. I'm really impressed about the process that got you to this name. And there's a lot of depth to it, and you're so correct. And I think that's what you do, right? You build brands, but more than just a name or flashing lights, you actually take the time to develop the individual into a brand. What has that been like for you?
I mean, for me, I've never been a person who believes in things that are surface, because anything that is surface level, the value is less. It's why you have the difference between fast fashion and high fashion. You know, fast fashion, you do it quickly, it looks good, it looks like it, but it's not really embodying the depth, the mastery, the meaning, and the artistry that goes into a high fashion product. And so looking at that, I always look at how can we increase value, and to increase value we must go deeper. We can't stay at the surface of just, oh, the logo, having a nice looking logo, a logo that looks nice, or things that just sound nice. But really going to the depth and exploring the archetypal nature of things, understanding the meaning, understanding the vision that my clients have. For me, I'm always saying it that our responsibility as a company is we're dedicated to taking your vision and creating an iconic venture. And I think while not every brand will become iconic, but I think if you aim for that, you're going to land in a very good place rather than just creating something that might get lost in the sea. And so this has been the foundation of my work. This is who I am. I'm a person who is always studying deeply, always seeking more, and understanding that it is that depth that actually creates a higher value for the customer, because the experience they're getting is not at the surface of just delivering assets or delivering the work, but creating a transformation that their customers actually feel.
Incredible. And it sounds like it's definitely worth it. And I guess that's why you were able to authentically come up with this idea of the DNA assessment, right?
Yeah. Yes, because I've always been interested in psychology, and always when I studied brand development and business, I was always intrigued by the psychological factors that not only um, make a company great, but also prompt people to connect with the company, buy, act, feel like they are part of the family of the company, build that loyalty and that defense where they're ready to fight for the virtues of the company, as we see
Right.
very often with companies like Apple, where Apple users will not touch another
Like,
device,
no.
that sort of thing. And it's just not happening because Apple is Apple. It's
Yeah.
happening because Apple has put the intention, they understand the psychological aspect of connecting with other human beings. When we connect, we don't just connect for things, we connect for
Right.
something that it's giving us at a very deep level of our soul. Sometimes we're connecting, as per the work that I do with the brand DNA, with things that are ancestrally coded in us. So we're not even conscious to these codes. They're there in our unconscious. We're acting and we think that we just made the choice because of whatever rational reason we say. But we're actually sometimes choosing things that were chosen by other humans who share our archetypal blueprint.
Right, because that's what I was going to ask. How does company like Apple, get us to be so loyal to our Apple products, and defend it on a daily basis, no matter how far we are from the Apple company, you know, but we just feel this loyalty towards them.
For sure, because they are not selling a product, they're selling an idea, and they're selling something that connects with our spirit, our archetypal nature. They understand that nature and they leverage it. And that's what I talk about, the brand it factor, and really understanding the dynamics, the psychological DNA of your brand so that you could leverage that, so that you speak to something deeper, more meaningful. Many years ago when Apple first started, of course, they had grown into a multi-million dollar company, but they weren't the billion-dollar company or global brand that they are today yet. And at the time, Steve Jobs looked at it and he's like, but what's going on? We have the best product. We are putting so much money into marketing, spending a lot on advertising, and yet we are not the market leader. yet we are not connecting with the consumer in a way that makes them Apple loyalists. And that's when they actually made that pivot to a lot of the work that I do with the brand archetypes, etc., and the brand DNA, to really change their messaging to a place where they didn't even have the product in the ads anymore,
Right.
because they understood how to speak to the nature of the target audience. And that's when Apple shifted from being a product to being a movement, to being an idea that I could look at this product and say, yes, this product reflects my own idea of myself. And I know that because I'm such, not only am I doing this work, but I am also such a sucker for brands that do it well. And so as an Apple user, I just remember in the early days, when I first got before I got my first Apple device, I think I bought a Dell computer, and I bought the computer. It was a great one. And I mean, I customized it. At the time, Dell had all these features where you could build, choose the color,
Yeah.
And it just wasn't enough, because Apple was out there with this message, with this meaning. And within a few weeks, like 3 weeks after I bought this computer, I sold it and got myself an Apple, which was probably twice the price, but it aligned with who I said I wanted to be in the world. And it allowed me to express myself. It gave me a tool through which I could also make a statement about who I am and feel the energy of that while using the product.
Amazing. Hanna, you are an individual who simply radiates this very full, authentic energy. I mean, how do you describe the process of becoming the Hanna Fitz?
So, it has been a long road. And I think, you've probably seen this in my community, that I'm working on my book and getting ready to publish it later this year. And just sharing my whole story and process, because of course I had the inner struggles that many people have, maybe in a different way, with self-esteem, with self-worth, with doing things that were different from the blueprint that was in my society and in my culture, and reaching for things that maybe others thought were laughable ideas. I just remember when I left university, I've just always had a very clear idea of what I want, and understanding that there was more, and I never really saw myself as, oh, people in America can do this and I can't. I just always saw that there is a possibility, and I go for it and I explore it. But I just remember one specific situation when I had just left university, and I met this guy. He wasn't really a friend, but just someone you talk to in passing. And I said to him, he asked me what's next for me after I've graduated with my degree, And I said, well, my vision is to have a global company. And he said to me, dream on. And I said, that's exactly what I'll do.
Exactly.
And so that's what I did. I dreamt on and I kept dreaming. And of course, I was very clear in my focus. I knew I was going to get a corporate job because I wanted to understand how to run a company. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, but very much like self-employed entrepreneurs, not really running a company. And I wanted to understand what were the structures of running a successful company. And so I put myself in the situation to gain that experience, and then moved on when the time came.
Amazing. I think you just made a very significant point that I've never actually thought about. But here in the Caribbean, we have a lot of small businesses. I mean, it has said that small, medium businesses are actually the backbone of our economies.
Sure.
But you kind of just pinpointed a difference between being an entrepreneur and actually running a company. How do you see those as different things, really?
Well, I just see the distinction between someone who might be self-employed versus an entrepreneur. entrepreneur, because I think an entrepreneur understands that there are, and not that the other person doesn't understand it, but it's very much that maybe they're doing this out of necessity and they just see themselves as the person who has to do it, and they're the lifeblood of the company. They do everything themselves, etc. Entrepreneur might be a bit more entrepreneurs organize things. That's the difference. It's a definition of entrepreneur. You organize resources in a way that they produce or yield a profit. And I think that's a fundamental difference, that you're organizing things, you're building up systems or teams. And the systems are important because more and more now, especially with the online world, you can automate a lot of things that you would have had to employ someone to do. So systems are really critical for business.
Yeah, amazing. The theme for this year's International Women's Day is all women and girls, rights, equality, and empowerment. My question to you is, what would you want for all women and girls? If you had to draft maybe a single line or paragraph, what would you say you want for all women and girls?
I mean, this has been my whole mission, and the work that I have done, especially with women, has been around helping women authentically and unapologetically own their true expression in the world. And so this is my whole work and my vision for women, that we own that, because when we are denying our desires, making the sacrifices we think we have to make versus stepping into the paths that we feel called to, or taking the chances, or expressing ourselves in the way that we truly desire to express ourselves versus how society expects us to express ourselves, or what it means to be a mother or a wife, etc. And really just owning that unapologetically, because the more we deny ourselves, the more we diminish our own self-worth, our own self-confidence, because it might feel like a small thing, like, hey, I just have to do it, but it diminishes your confidence. But the more you can step into who you are, your true expression, the more you can say, hey, I desire that, and go for it, the more you empower yourself to expand the realm of possibility.
Fantastic. I mean, this has truly been a very, very inspiring interview. And I'm really happy we were able to have this session. I know many women, girls, and even boys and men will be inspired. And so we're just about wrapping up. And I have, I think, one last question, and that is, throughout your journey, what have you learned most about yourself and about people?
Well, what I learned most about myself is that, I believe that I have the capacity to materialize the things I want. But what I have had to understand is that sometimes things don't always happen or unfold in the timing that we want them to, and to really appreciate that. So I've really learned to balance being a person who always likes to have things in control and have structure and order, versus allowing more and being in the flow more and listening more to my inner voice. So this has been something really important for me. What I've learned about people is that people, the only commitment that you can trust with people is the one that's in writing. Because very often we all are like that. I'm not saying it like separating myself from other people. We all are operating from our own self-interest. And sometimes when someone is in a lot of survival mode, it might happen that they disappoint you, and it's not necessarily because they want to disappoint you or because they're a cold person, but because they're in survival mode and they're only thinking of their own survival. And you might become the collateral damage of that. But if you understand that, part of the structures that I encourage everyone who's in business is having a good lawyer, having good contracts, checking things, putting things in writing is so important.
Yeah. As a law student, I couldn't agree more.
Yes.
Hannah, can you tell us about the workshop you're having in Easter in St. Lucia?
Oh my gosh. So I really wanted to do something. I hadn't been done a workshop on the island in a long time. I've done a lot overseas in different markets in Europe. So it was really an opportunity to bring a level of expertise to experts, CEOs, C-suite executives on the island. I'm so sorry, my Maltese put
Yeah,
on.
okay.
And so I have partnered with Beyonce's longtime publicist. She has been the publicist for iconic entertainers. She is one of the most prolific media um, experts in the world globally. She is recognized for her work. She's worked with Prince, Kelly Rowland, Mariah Carey. So you name it, she is behind them. She's the force building their media image. And so I decided to pair my expertise with hers alongside my partner, Stefan Gutman. He is a film director from Berlin. He established his career in Berlin. And he's worked with over 100 global brands from Mercedes to Swarovski, BMW, and has even won an Image Award for his work with the city of Berlin. And so bringing these two incredible experts in image and brand development, I really saw it working hand in hand with the work that I do on the brand identity, the brand positioning, and all of that. And so, what we're looking to do is create a dynamic seminar. It's not an event where you're just coming to listen to experts speak. You're coming to work on your brand. You're coming to reposition and get the tools you need to not only present yourself better as a personal brand, as an expert, as a leader, but also to enhance how you lead. Because if you know more about yourself, if you know more about your own psychological triggers and how you connect with other people, how you lead. So in the brand It Factor system, we really look at your leadership style, we look at your communication style, and we look at your influence style. And when you understand how that works for you at a psychological level, you can bring more of yourself to the table in a more powerful and authentic way. I always say that leadership is not about commanding authority. It's about understanding how to connect with people and move them in a way that they take the action that you desire to fulfill a bigger goal. Well, what I'm most excited about for this event is that I'm very passionate about working in the community. And so immediately I asked Yvette, are you willing to go to a local school with me when you arrive? I would really love to have you be a part of a program that I created called Empowered to Prosper. And so what attendance of this event is also enabling us to do is to be able to facilitate bringing this expertise to kids. So we're going to go to a secondary school on the island, meet with the kids. They're going to have a chance for Yvette to share motivational talk with them and empower them. And also from some of the other speakers who will be at the event, we will also speak with the teens. So I'm very, very passionate about that. Not only working with the experts, but also going into the community and sharing with young people as well.
Wow. That's phenomenal. And I'm really hoping that I can switch around some things to really be there. I really would like to have that authentic experience with you and the team. Hanna, thank you so much again for sharing so much wisdom and experience with us. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me, Rollis. I really enjoyed this talk, and we really do hope we see you in St. Lucia.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hanna.
Insightful, engaging, dynamic, authentic, empowering, informative, transformative, controversial, unbiased, impactful. This is Politics Aside with Release Brooks.